Have you ever checked someone's Facebook profile? Come on, I know you have. And you think that their life is so good. I want that. Maybe if I could just get their car or what they have, I will be happy. Pride, envy, anger, sloth, greed, gluttony, lust. Are these really 7 sins so deadly? These sins can come across as Christian, but are they even in the Bible? If you make sure you don't do them, will you be more spiritual? You feel the more you try, the worse you get. They appear more philosophical than religious, but oftentimes Christians aren't even aware that they're actually come back from the Middle Ages rather than, anything biblical. And when we go through them, are they really sins? They sound like it, but gluttony? I know eating a little bit as opposed to a lot. So does that mean if you eat a whole pizza, like a party-sized pizza by yourself, and then garlic bread, then some dessert, then a bottle of soda, maybe 2, are we sinning? Hope not. There is also anger or wrath. But then God gets angry, and we have all heard the term the wrath of God. So that doesn't make sense. God is pure, and any evil, even a little bit, can't exist with or in him. I know this list is stating that these sins are in the extremes, but where is that defining line? A little bit of lust is already way too much. However, eating a little bit of pizza or even having the latest or greatest iPhone is surely okay. Also, trying to stop doing these things can sometimes make things worse. For example, try not to think about pink elephants. I have even seen that these are sins because they can harm others, but it's okay when it's against yourself, which totally doesn't stack up and falls apart when you get into it. So maybe the best way to go through all of this is to let me show you the history of this list and where it originally came from to start with. Okay, 8 evil thoughts. Evagrius Ponticus, he was a monk back in the late 300s or the 4th century, and he came up with a list of evil thoughts or temptations. Then came along St. John Cassian, who translated the list into Latin, and he called it the 8 deadly sins. In 590 AD, Pope Gregory I came in with pride, envy, anger, sadness, avarice, gluttony and lust. Now, he did a bit of a combination thing with sorrow and sloth and pride and vainglory, so I guess that makes a little bit more sense. I guess the problem here is this list I'm finding a little bit frustrating because, let's face it, what is a sin? A sin is, it's more a sin against God and yourself. When you look at gluttony as opposed to envy, they are 2 very different things, or lust, or sadness. When we look at the Bible, there are some confusing things that come up with this list and what's in the Bible. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. These sins are obviously originally from the Bible, and they've pulled them from various sources, but then sometimes they miss it, they put it together in a different way. Let's take sloth or slothiness. Are we really going to go down that road with laziness? Okay, we've got laziness, sadness, and that includes depression, anxiety, and all the rest, and they put that all in one thing. And I guess I want to just stress right now, it's not a sin. And I just want to put that up front, because if we even start discussing that, I think that's going to be hard for a lot of people thinking that it is. And one thing I really want to stress is that we live in a broken world, and these things are a result of a broken world, not that these sins break the world, if that makes sense. In 2 Corinthians 12:7, Paul talks about his thorn in his flesh. Or because of these surpassing great revelations, therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardship, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. I think this is very clear that this, what Paul is talking about, is not a sin, but more of a result of sin. I don't know if is it a physical thing, or is it a depression, or it might even be, before Paul was Paul, his name was Saul, and he actually went through and he was killing Christians. Who knows? He might have nightmares at night with what he's done, seeing the faces of people. That will be enough to torment anybody. And God keeps saying, my grace is sufficient for you. So God is not saying that this is a sin. He is saying this is something resulting from sin. His grace is sufficient. And if we can even come back to gluttony, there's even a story where Jesus is being tested by some Pharisees. The Pharisees are trying to test him on the law and how they're hypocrites. And he uses this example. Now, obviously, he is talking more about the law and about spirituality and not so much about gluttony, but he uses in context to actually explain it. And I think it helps us with this, what we're trying to go through today. Jesus called the crowd to him and said, "Listen and understand. What goes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth, that is what defiles them." Then disciples came to him and asked, "Do you know that the Pharisees are offended by what they just heard?" He replied, "Every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be pulled up by the roots. Leave them, they are blind guides. If the blind lead the blind, both will fall into a pit." Peter said, "Explain this parable to us." "Are you still so dull?" Jesus asked them. "Don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body? But the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart, and these defile them. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. These are what defile a person. But eating with unwashed hands does not defile them." I think if we're focusing on these 7 deadly sins, I think we're missing the point. But at the same time, let me show you. Matthew 22:36-40, and Jesus being questioned, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul is all we need. Trying to focus on sinning can take a lot of effort. Focusing on God with all we do, reading the Bible, helping people, prayer, and the list goes on. When we do this, we don't have any room for anything else. So, go do something awesome for God. Catch you in the next one.